With new GPUs coming out this month and more coming out next month, a lot of people might be worried is now the wrong time to buy. And you can always be in that cycle of, if I just wait. So for some people, it depends on your price point, I think. It is the right time to wait. But for other people, I think this is a perfectly fair time to buy. Because the new AMD GPUs coming out this month, in about a week as of the time of filming, the 7900 XTX and the 7900 XT are going to be priced at $900 and $1,000. And that's if they do even hold at their MSRP. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw partner cards more expensive than that, all of that. Anyway, the point is, most people are buying GPUs for $500 or less, a lot of people in more like the $200 to $400 range. And for those people, these GPUs are so expensive that I don't think they're going to put a lot of downward pressure on these pricing. The new mid-range to low-end cards have not even been announced yet, and I wouldn't expect them until well into 2023. All we know on the horizon coming for Nvidia is, well, honestly, actually nothing officially, but we're heavily expecting an RTX 4070 Ti to launch in January, although that's going to be a rebrand of the unlaunched RTX 4080 12GB, which, again, we're expecting a pretty high price tag, although we don't know exactly. In other words, I think it's safe to hop in and look at the lower price points, give some value recommendations on what the market's like now, because there isn't expected to be direct low to mid-range pricing pressure from the new generations. But first, let me thank today's sponsor, Ekster wallets. I ditched my wallet last month. I was actually going to buy one of these for myself, and then they reached out to me for a sponsorship. So I was super excited, and now I'm still going to buy some of these, but they're going to be awesome Christmas gifts for all the people who have complimented me on my new Parliament wallet. I really love their quick access card design. So you can access all the cards with the push of a button, and this allows a much more minimalist and sleek design. Plus, it's just really cool. And they have built-in RFID protection blocking wireless theft. And also, you can get these cool solar-powered tracking device that shapes like a card that lets you track your wallet's location from a smartphone and use a two-way ringing feature and receive separation alerts. And 2 hours in the sun equals a 3 months charge. So this is really cool. Overall, I think these are fantastic gifts. You could want one personally. I have less lower back pain because my super thick, old school, a trifold wallet or whatever it's called, honestly was way too thick. It was uncomfortable to sit on, but it was too big to fit in like a front pocket comfortably. Anyway, I love these things. Go ahead and check out the link in the pinned comment and the description to check out Ekster's Christmas sale. Now, if we do look at the lower end ranges, Nvidia's RTX 3000 series, which at the low end is still their most current cards because they've only launched their high-end 4000 series cards. The lowest 3000 series card is the RTX 3050, and I still think it's incredibly overpriced. For price comparisons today, I'm going to be using PC Part Picker because it searches a variety of new in-stock retailers. It doesn't search all of them, so yes, you can find special deals sometimes that haven't updated to these pages, but this is a fair price comparison. We're going to be sorting low to high on PC Part Picker. And the RTX 3050 is showing up at $285 for the lowest price, which I think is vastly overpriced because AMD is offering the RX 6600 for $216 if you look in at the lowest price. Now, sometimes these take rebates, this one doesn't, meaning that is just a flat price of $216. We have seen it go below $200, including rebates in the past, so this isn't the best deal I've ever seen on it. But an RX 6600 versus an RTX 3050 is going to be a win for the RX 6600 unless you need some NVIDIA-specific features, which I might as well talk about right now. As you're going to see, especially in these lower price points, AMD is going to undercut NVIDIA's pricing very heavily for the same basic gaming performance. Now, why is that? One reason is they do have a reputation, so they have a lot of marketing mindshare. But beyond just that reputation, there are some real reasons. Some people do professional work, which is programmed around NVIDIA's CUDA cores and doesn't run as well on AMD. So if you use your GPU for more than just gaming, you should look into your apps and how well they run on AMD hardware. Some run fine, some don't. Also, Nvidia does have better ray tracing performance per tier, although often with AMD, if you're able to buy a more powerful GPU for the same price, sometimes that does kind of close that gap. There's also differences in upscaling technology like DLSS 2 versus FSR 2, and DLSS does look a little bit better, although the later versions of FSR have helped to close that gap. There's also reputations around driver stability, and those are difficult things to pin down in an objective way. You will see people complain about driver issues on both, although AMD does seem to have a history of more complaints about driver stability, although a lot of those seem to have cleared up a lot. And I tried out using an RX 6800 XT as my primary GPU from AMD for about 6 months, and I didn't experience any serious issues. There were a few things from time to time, but it wasn't that big of a deal, but I'm a sample size of 1, as are all reviewers, so it's hard to pin those things down. So there's a reason why some people will pay more for the Nvidia GPU, but if you're looking for value, especially at these lower end pricing, for just playing games, I think AMD, again, the 6600 is faster than the 3050 and costs significantly less, offering a much better value price to performance. Okay, so what if you wanted to spend a little bit more? Well, for one thing, actually, how about we talk about what if you want to spend a little bit less? Honestly, guys, if you want to spend less than $200, I think you should either save up more money or you should look into the used market, maybe even your local used market. But this video, due to time constraints, is going to focus on the new GPU market. Used GPUs have their own concerns and anyway. So I'm going to go $200 and up. If you want to spend more than the $216 range here for the RX 6600, then I think you should look into the RX 6650 XT or sometimes the 6600 XT. These are almost the same GPU, but with slightly faster memory on the 6650 XT. This was the updated version. It's looking like right now we see the MSI Mech 2X OC for $250. That may need a rebate. Okay, so that is relying on a $20 mail-in rebate. So if you don't want to count on that rebate coming through or just waiting on that money, it would be $270 up front. But notice that $270 is still less than the cheapest RTX 3050 we're seeing. And the 6650 XT, well, I only have a 6600 XT to give you a head-to-head comparison. The 6650 XT is basically a 6600 XT with slightly faster memory, so it's going to be even 2 to 3%, maybe 5% faster than my 6600 XT. So in other words, the 6600 XT is already crushing the 3050, and the 6650 would be even doing a little bit better. And like I said, it's doing it for less money. Now it's looking like supply of the 6600 XTs, not 6650 XTs, but the original 6600 XT, does seem to be drying up. We used to see these at lower prices. Those ones seem to be selling out, and the current pricing I'm seeing right now is like $350. So it looks like the 6650 XT, while being better, is also the better deal right now over the original 6600 XT. Okay, so that brings us up to, $250 to $270, depending on the rebate. So that's kind of closing in on the RTX 3050 pricing. So if you wanted to go up to the next tier of Nvidia GPUs, you'd be looking at the RTX 3060. Now, I do want to mention right now that you want to be very careful, because look at the memory configurations now. In the past, these have always been 12 gigabytes, but NVIDIA recently allowed the manufacturing of an 8 gigabyte model, which I'm not seeing listed here. These seem to be 3060 Ti's at 8 gigabyte, but there is a 3060 non-Ti 8 gigabyte card now, and it is significantly slower than the 3060. I haven't reviewed one myself, but Hardware Unboxed have, confirming that it does come with a lot of cut down memory specs, like the actual bandwidth and cache, and it does perform worse. Now, right now I'm just seeing the RTX 3060 12 gigabyte listed here. It's coming in at $360 for the cheapest model. I don't think that relies on, that actually comes, okay, it's a promo code, not a rebate. So $360, you could get it at that price right now for a 3060 for $360. Now, here's the thing. If you were willing to go with AMD for that same price, you can get an RX 6700 XT. Also coming in at $360. Let's check if this one's relying on a rebate. Nope, just a flat $360. The 6700 XT against the RTX 3060 is interesting. They both have 12 gigabytes of VRAM, and the 6700 XT in rasterized gaming performance, meaning non-ray traced, is going to have a significant lead over the RTX 3060 in most games. Now, personally, if I had the choice between a 3060 and a 6700 XT, I would absolutely take the 6700 XT. If you were looking for advantages for the RTX 3060, it's mostly going to be, like I said, Nvidia's software compatibility if you were using this in professional applications. And if you're interested in ray tracing, the 3060 can still have a lead in ray tracing, but it's not as big of a lead as you might think because, again, the 6700 XT is kind of a tier up in GPU class from AMD despite being offered at the same price point, meaning that its deficiencies in ray tracing are less severe. But honestly, I would not buy either of these GPUs specifically for ray tracing because I think both of them kind of underperform, although you can reach playable frame rates, especially if you're willing to use upscaling. Now, if you're upscaling at 1080p, which is I think the best resolution target for a 3060, I don't think it looks that great, so I'd try to turn down settings and play at native resolution myself, but your opinion on that may differ. The 6700 XT, I think, is also starting to be a GPU that you could consider for a decent 1440p gaming setup. You are not going to be absolutely maxing out the most demanding games and staying at a locked 60 frames per second at 1440p on a 6700 XT. But if you're willing to just make some small image quality compromises, or you just play less demanding games, you're definitely going to be able to easily hit 60 FPS, and honestly, a lot more than 60 FPS. So I think the 6700 XT makes sense for a very value-oriented 1440p build or a high refresh rate 1080p setup. So the 6700 XT is going to be my pick in this mid $300 to $400 range. And like I said, I don't think the 3060 from Nvidia is making sense unless you need those NVIDIA-specific features. And we should check in on the 3060 Ti and see where it's currently priced. Okay, the 3060 Ti does seem to be available right now for about $400 from a couple of models. So this is a more interesting comparison, I think, compared versus the 6700 XT. The 3060 Ti and the 6700 XT have very similar rasterized performance, with maybe a bit of an edge to the 6700 XT overall, especially at 1080p. That might shift a bit at 1440p. And then, it really depends on the game that you're playing and all of that. However, then the 3060 Ti, being more of a direct competitor to the 6700 XT, will have, again, the more advanced ray tracing performance, things like that. Now, it is costing you about $50 more, but honestly, usually I've seen this price gap larger, and the 3060 Ti commanding even more of a premium. At the same price, if you're attracted to some of those NVIDIA features, I think the 3060 Ti would make sense. Now, does a $50 gap make sense? That's up to you, but I think some people would maybe go with the 3060 Ti. Keep in mind it's only an 8GB card rather than 12GB, but if you're using this at 1080p, I don't think that's a big deal. If you're using it at 1440p, I think you'd be turning down settings and probably not using ray tracing anyway, in which case, does your ray tracing edge really matter? But anyway, that also reduces the VRAM needs, so I'm not sure the 8GB is too big of a deal when you're considering that card. I didn't really run into any issues with the 8GB limit, but maybe the games you play are different than the ones that I test. Now, if you wanted to spend even more, the next step up from Nvidia is the 3070. Which it's looking like we do see at least one model available at its MSRP of $500 currently, which is honestly better than we usually see. Looks like that's in stock at Walmart. But these are usually priced a little bit higher, going into the $540 to $550 price range, and sometimes even significantly more than that. Now, the 6700 XT, from AMD, has a little trouble keeping up with the 3070, but it's not beaten badly, although it is beaten, and it does save you a significant amount of money if you wanted to go that route. Same thing with the 3060 Ti. It gets pretty close in performance to a 3070, with, currently costing about $100 less. So if you're really interested in value and $500 is kind of stretching your budget, I feel like the 3070 might not offer the best value, with the 3060 Ti and 6700 XT maybe being better on the value perspective. However, let's see what AMD has at the $500 price point. It looks like the RX 6800 non-XT is currently available for $510, and I have done comparisons of the 6800 versus the 3070. For one thing, the 6800 does have double the VRAM capacity, so with 16 gigabytes at a card of this performance tier, I don't think you'll ever have to worry about not being out of VRAM. You'll just be worried about the card aging out in performance before it runs out of VRAM capacity. And I think, and the 6800 is faster than the RTX 3070. And other than ray tracing, now the 3070 is getting strong enough at ray tracing that if you're using it at 1080p, like maybe you're using it for a high refresh rate 1080p, esports card, but then you also play some single player games at lower refresh rates and might want to use some ray tracing, then that might sway you. If you're going up to 1440p, the 3070 can do ray tracing there. You'll have to be using a lot of DLSS most likely in the more demanding titles. So that could sway your opinion. But overall, if you're not heavily thinking about ray tracing or some of the other Nvidia advantages, the 6800 is just offering better performance in just normal gaming at the same price. So definitely something to think about. Now, sometimes you can get a 6800 XT model for only slightly more than $500. However, looking at current pricing, I think most of the $500 to $550 6800 XTs have just recently sold out. Now, I don't know whether AMD is planning on restocking a lot of their 6800 XTs with their new GPUs coming out, but I would say definitely if you're buying not on the same day I'm filming this video, check if the 6800 XT is in stock in the $500 to $600 range, because it has been pretty consistently for a long time, although it isn't today. So it could be possible that they just sold out briefly and will come back in stock, because the 6800 XT is usually significantly, noticeably better than a 6800 non-XT. And it sometimes are offered both around that same price, a little over $500. Anyway, not right now as of filming, so I'm not going to make that recommendation other than saying that you should probably check it out. Now, an RTX 3070 Ti would be the next step up from Nvidia. But pricing on these, I've usually seen them available for around $600, although what I'm pulling up right now is more like $750. And at $750, these make absolutely no sense at all. 3070 Ti is faster than a 3070, but not by all that much. So this makes no sense jumping up to 3070 Ti if you're seeing them for like $750. Also because the 3080, usually, wow. Man, GPU prices got a lot worse than the last time I did one of these videos, guys. I'm seeing the 3080 coming in here over $900 right now. So maybe Nvidia is actually finally selling out of some of their better priced 3000 series cards. And the only silver lining I could see on that, if that's true, is that maybe they'll actually be able to afford to launch some lower priced 4000 series cards or reduce their pricing, because if we're starting to talk about this $1,000 price point, well, maybe I should hold off here and see if anything else is available for less than this. So we got a 3080 coming in at $945. Don't buy it at that price, guys. It just doesn't make sense. 3080 Ti coming in for slightly more than that, so that would be the better deal, although I think both of those are kind of bad deals at this point. Where's our 3090 at right now? Over $1,000, and then our 3090 Ti, yeah, it looks like most of the reasonable supply on those has dried up. You could find them around $1,000 for a while. Looks like they're way past that at this point. Okay, well, the 3000 series seems to be overpriced at the high end, but like I said, it was looking like the RX 6800 might be the last reasonably priced GPU. The XT, like I said, seems to have gone up quite a bit. The 6900, let's check in on that. 950, not worth it at that price point. And then the 6950 XT, 850, I think that's still too much. So guys, I might just be filming this video at a bad moment in time where a bunch of stuff just sold out for Black Friday and maybe hasn't restocked and maybe will. So I'll just leave you with this. Usually you can get a 6800, you have been able to get a 6800 XT for $500 to $600, and that made good sense as a very fast, very good 1440p GPU, even usable at 4K. I did use it at 4K for a while, but you will have to compromise settings a bit. And then the 3080s were coming in at a little over $700, and they made sense if you wanted to use ray tracing at 1440p. At the prices I'm seeing listed right now, like I said, could be a bad moment in time. I would just say nothing past the 6800 makes a value sense right now. However, this gets to the point where maybe you're not buying on value. Now, most of my video focuses on value, but there is a point at which you could just be like, look, I've got a lot of money, I just want to buy the best thing. Okay, if you just want to buy the best thing, then you want to buy an RTX 4090. And this one, okay, a couple of these on Asus's website are saying they're in stock at the $1,600 and $1,800 price points. But I've checked these every time that happens, and they're not really in stock if you actually go to the website. If you actually go to the website, it says notify me out of stock. So just clarifying on that, these ones aren't really in stock at those pricings. It looks like Asus's website kind of incompatible. So really you're going to be paying more like this over $2,000 range if you actually want to find one in stock. But the 4090 is the best GPU currently available. If you just want higher, this makes sense if you want to go for higher refresh rate 4K experiences and you have a lot of money to burn. It does not look like based on AMD's leaked performance numbers, so maybe we'll talk about this. So the high end, if we're looking at the $1,000 price point or more, you know, 900 and up, maybe we'll look at that. Since a lot of these other high-end GPUs were coming in at, you know, around $900 or more now, like the RTX 3080, I think in this case it makes sense to wait for that 7900 XTX or 7900 XT. It's looking like, based on AMD's published performance numbers, although full reviews should be out next week, that the 7900 XTX, the $1,000 price point one, should beat an RTX 4080 in rasterized performance, at least in the games that AMD has published performance numbers for. Now, since this is coming from AMD themselves, these could obviously have been cherry-picked results, so we'll have to see. But all signs point to it being faster than a 4080 in rasterized performance. However, if you look at its ray tracing performance, well, it's a significant uplift over the previous generation. That will probably bring it more into line with something like a 3090 or maybe 3090 Ti, or maybe 3080. But in other words, it'll probably get you ray tracing performance similar to what we saw from the high-end GPUs from the RTX 3000 series. But the RTX 4000 series has taken a significant jump in ray tracing performance. So odds are AMD's GPUs are going to kind of repeat what we saw last generation, which is they're going to offer worse ray tracing performance than their competitors, but they're going to offer better rasterized performance, and you'll need to weigh how much that matters to you. However, the 7900 XTX is coming in at a much lower price than the RTX 4080. So if anything like a 3080 or up is coming in anywhere near $900 or more, I think it's going to make a lot of sense to wait on those 7900 XTX cards. We'll see what the full reviews tell us, but like I said, I think they're going to be significantly faster in rasterized performance and match the previous generation's ray tracing performance from Nvidia, or at least get close to it. Anyway, so yeah, at current pricing, it's looking like wait for those AMD cards. Now, does an RTX 4080 make sense? Well, if you could get one for around its MSRP of $1,200, which it's looking like Newegg might have one in stock around there, then let's talk about it. Okay, if you know you're just not going to buy AMD, if you're like, okay, the 7900 XTX, I don't care, I'm not buying AMD, I need Nvidia for work and then also gaming, or I'm really interested in DLSS 3 frame generation. You know, if there's a reason you want to buy Nvidia, if you could get one around that $1,200 mark, I don't think it's good value. But what I'm seeing from the stock issues right now, it's looking like for like a 3080, like would I pay $950 for a 3080 versus a 4080, you know, at $1,200? In other words, I don't think the 4080 is good value, but at some point you're just, I have $1,200, I want to buy the best GPU I can for $1,200, then I think the 4080 is, you know, if you're interested in ray tracing and Nvidia features, the best GPU you can buy for $1,200 right now. I think if you're not that interested in ray tracing or too locked into Nvidia, then I think the AMD 7900 XTX could offer better value for a lower price, right? But anyway, this is where it kind of gets complicated. And if you just have an unlimited budget, I think you just buy the 4090 over the 4080. Anyway, hopefully this video was interesting or useful for you. Sorry that the top end here is a little bit wishy-washy, but this is the one where I said, you know, once you get to where the new GPUs are going to be coming in, that's where waiting and kind of seeing what happens makes more sense. As a recap, at the lower price points, I think it's a pretty easy call. Like I said, unless you're locked into Nvidia specific features, the RX 6600 makes the best bang for the buck 1080p gaming GPU right now. The RX 6650 XT is going to be even better if you can stretch your price just a little bit more. Remember, it would be about $270 if you don't count the mail-in rebate, but that's going to be crushing the 3050 at that price point. And then I think the 6700 XT is going to be the best. I'm stepping into 1440p or I want a really high refresh rate 1080p value. It's once you hit the 3060 Ti that I thought that the deal available from Nvidia isn't too bad. So I think the 3060 Ti would make sense for a high refresh rate 1080p card, or again, a kind of an entry level. It's basically the 6700 XT idea, but the Nvidia counterpart, and you're paying a little bit more for those Nvidia features and a little bit less VRAM. And then past that point, I think we're running out of value, but I did think the RX 6800 non-XT was the most interesting GPU. And past this point, I don't know what happened to prices, guys. They look terrible. Wait and see what happens with the 7900 XTX maybe. I hope all of you have an excellent day.